Hi guys, Samantha from Jessima Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create a cute ring dish using some leftovers. These are the leftovers from my kaleidoscope cane tutorial. I will provide a link to that in the description below, but keep in mind you can use any leftovers so long as they are colourful and aren't too squished together, so that the colours are easily identifiable and not all smushed together. So those are the leftovers I'm using. Just separate those out so they're all sticking together. Keep in mind you don't have to use leftovers, you could just use a bunch of different colours that you like together, but I find leftovers always look the best, and also it's a great way to use leftovers. Next we're going to be using a bowl that has a nice inner curve. I would recommend cleaning off any bowl you're using because oftentimes they accumulate dust, things like that, and we don't want that getting onto our finished product, so just finish it up as you can see there. And then lastly you're going to need a little bit of black clay. So, not a lot. So first thing you want to do is you want to roll this out into a sheet and you want to condition it. Roll it out into a sheet that is about 1/2 millimeter thick, and then from there we can start creating our cane. Okay, and here's my veneer. Pop that to the side. We'll grab our leftovers. And I'm quite happy with how they look. They don't really need to be chopped up or anything like that because we will mix the colours and make it look more smushy than anything else, and we'll blend things together and it won't have a nice crisp finish. Now these leftovers are not exactly new. It's been a few months since I worked with this clay right here, so they're going to be a little hard. So if you have new leftovers you should be able to easily form it into a ball. If you're working with old leftovers you might need a little bit of help doing it. So the best thing to do, and I will turn down the sound if I were you because I'm going to be doing a bit of bashing. The best thing to do is going to be to whack it, like so. And you will continue doing this until you form it into kind of a square shape, and by doing this you'll warm up the clay, you'll compact it together, and just in general it will help a lot. You can also roll it as well, and just in general start working the clay, get it to warm up a bit, get it to smooth together. That's in general what you're looking for. Okay, and here is how it should look. I just want to bring the camera forward just a little bit. There you go. Now I'm just going to gently start rolling that into a cylinder, and you might need to roll it, squish it back down, roll it, squish it back down a few times just to get the clay warmed up. If you are working with warm clay or clay that you've used in the last few weeks, this shouldn't be an issue, but this is Kato leftovers as well, so it's going to be particularly hard, but you can see here by just doing this exercise where you roll and then squish back down and then roll, you can see that it's starting to move. You can see that it moves quite nicely now. Okay, so just work that into a nice, somewhat uniform cylinder. And I'd say this is probably, let me actually get a ruler very quickly and just have a rough look at this. It's about 2.5 centimeters across, and my clay here is about 1 millimeter thick. Just position it like so, trim, and trim. You can put that back with your black. Okay, then just roll like so, and then once you get to the other end just mark off where you hit it by pressing the clay into it like so, and then cutting. And then just close that over, like so. Very easy. Okay. Now what we're going to do is just gently, now you're going to end up with leftovers on the ends, which is fine. Now you just want to reduce this, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking for any air bubbles first. So generally the best way to find air bubbles is to roll it a few times, stretch it out like so, and generally they will show themselves. And I'm not seeing any. If any show up, all you do is you take your blade, slit, and push the air bubble out like so. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to reduce this down until it's about half a centimetre in diameter. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating, we're going to be rolling it out and creating little spirals, very similar to what I do with my Starry Night technique. And then we're going to be taking the spirals and we're going to be putting it into the base here to create a little ring dish. And then we'll bake that, sand away some of the top excess black, and you'll find that we create a very pretty looking piece. Now you can see here that we have our end bits that aren't going to be very usable, which is fine. I would not cut off the end bits until we are actually ready to start creating the spirals, and that will just help save waste, because if you chop off the end bits, you're just going to continue reducing, and then you're going to create more end scraps. So keep the original end scraps on. Okay, now we're almost to the point where I'm going to stop. I think that'll be fine. It's probably about a centimetre thick right now. And there's a little air bubble. And my tile's not big enough for me to continue on, so what we'll do is we'll just pop that here, trim away our excess, and there you can see it's very easy to make out distinctive shapes in there, which is very important. And what we're going to do is we're just going to roll this section down a bit, like so. And now it doesn't have to be even. And I'm going to cut out some pieces, and now you can see here that they're not all the same size. That's something that you want. You're going to take it, you're going to taper one end by just squishing it like so. Then you're going to roll so that you create a kind of tapered end. And it doesn't have to be perfect. This is a great project for beginners. Not that complicated. And then you just create a little spiral. And you'll move on to the next one, taper the end. And this is always the end that's going to be the thinnest. Roll it out. Like so. Roll. And you've created a little spiral. Like so. See? And then you're going to create a whole bunch of those. And then when we're done, we are then going to move them into our bowl, and I'll show you how to put that all together. Don't put them together yet, because I want to have a bunch of different sized ones, and then I can decide which ones look best in certain spots. Okay, so I've just finished the last one. There's a whole bunch off to the side over here. So now we're just going to bring over our pieces. And what I want you to do is I want you to just take a plain piece of printing paper. And I just want you to give each of them a little burnish. And this is just going to flatten them out a little bit. If you don't have time to do this, it's not absolutely necessary, but it will help flatten out both sides. Though I think it's probably not going to be necessary, so you can do it. It's not absolutely necessary. Probably do it once it's in the bowl. Okay. So generally I'll look for the largest one, which I think is this one. Let's have a look. No, it's this one. This one looks to be the largest. And I'll choose the nicest side for that. And I'll just pop that inside. Press that down. Like so. Then bring over another one. different size. Press that down. And just alternate. Like so. And then just continue pressing them in, pressing them down, and then once you've used up all your Nautilus, try to get it into a semi-round shape, and then when we're done, I'm going to show you what to do next. Okay, so I've made this a little bright so that you can see the black here, and so you can see here that it's basically a somewhat round shape. So now what you want to do is you want to put on some gloves so we're not leaving fingerprints, and you want to really go around and press in on this properly to mostly get rid of the spiral pattern. It should look fairly smooth when you're finished with this, because you want all these pieces to be compressed together. You want it to fill out any little holes, things like that, and just in general you want to press it all together. And the best way to do it is just going to be to go in with your finger and do it, just so that they start to blend together, as you can see. And now I'm going to have a few lines from my glove from the initial round. But once I've pressed them all together and they're starting to look compacted, I will go back through and I'll remove any little lines that the gloves have left. And just continue doing this, and then when I am done I will show you how it looks, and then I'll show you how long it needs to bake for. Okay, that's pretty good. Now what I want to do next is I want to just take a little bit of water with this light spritz, like so. Just take a wet wipe, and I'm just going to use this to smooth out things. It's going to rub away some of the clay, but that's fine. It's just the surface layer of black which is going to get sanded off anyway. And it's just going to get rid of the fingerprints or little cracks from the gloves. And it's just going to give it an overall much more smooth finish, which is very important because it's going to just save time, help save us time on sanding later on. Okay, so just go through and continue doing that until you've smoothed off most of the issues. Just check around, see if you can see any scrapes. Like here, I can see there were some imprints from the glove there. And if you can still see the Nautilus pattern, that is fine. We're still good with that. And just spray more if you need to. And then once I'm done with this, it's going to go into the oven for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature. Actually, no, Kato's recommended temperature. Because most of this is made up of Kato. It's just a very thin line of Primo around the outside. And then I am going to show you how to sand it perfectly to create our beautiful bowl. Okay, so our bowl is out of the oven, and here it is. So I've had it sit in the sink so that it can cool down. It's also got a little bit of dishwashing soap on it, and in the sink as well. And this is going to help us sand. Now what I'm going to be using it to sand are these sanding discs. Hopefully you can read that. And I get these from Linda's Art Spot. And I'm going to be starting with the coarsest grit, which is 180. Just wet that up quickly. And I will sand inside the bowl to start with, just because it will give us a little bit of leverage. But if it does move like it did just there, then remove the bowl. If it sticks inside the bowl, it's generally best to go with that. But if it moves like it did so, then just take it out and start sanding. And now it's going to take a bit of sanding to get this off. So start with the coarsest grit you have. Generally about 180 works. And then just sand until you've removed all of the black that you want, and then go up through the other grits to shine it up. And now you can see the back's pretty nice and smooth. It'll be nice and easy to sand. And so this could take a while. And so I'm just going to be sanding, and then when it's done, I'll show you how it looks. Okay, and so our bowl has been sanded, and here is how it looks. So it looks really pretty. Now for those of you who want to avoid a lot of sanding, because this took me about an hour to sand at least, what you will do is you'll make the little spirals. You'll form them into a somewhat circular sheet on your tile. Then you'll take a piece of plain printing paper, put on the top of your tile, then put your sheet of little Nautiluses on top of the plain printing paper, then put another piece of plain printing paper over the top, and then just burnish it with your hand until it's nice and smooth. Then put that into the bowl, and what will happen is you'll end up with a lot less sanding. If you really want to avoid the sanding, before you put it in the bowl, you can try shaving both sides. Just take a thin blade, shave the top. I'll provide a link to my Starry Night tutorial so that you can see how I do that. So basically you would just take a finished veneer of the Starry Night and put it into the bowl. You're not going to get as clean an image as I have here, as you can see, and these edges are definitely going to get distorted, but again it will save time on sanding. So if you do want to avoid sanding, that's the way to go. Now I'm going to be sealing this and give it a shiny finish with Kato Clear Liquid Clay. You can use a UV resin, but I do like using Kato Liquid Clay just because it's polymer clay, so there's no risk of it bubbling in a UV light or going sticky or things like that. It's just really safe as far as a glossy sealer works. Now you're going to need a heat gun for this, which I have. If you don't have a heat gun, your best bet is to go with UV resin instead. And I'm just squirting a fair amount on here. I don't want too much. Start with that. And then I want you to just smooth that over, get it filled up into any gaps that there might be, and just get a nice even coat. And then what we're going to do is we're going to seal this side. So what we'll do is we'll spread the liquid clay over the surface, cure it with the heat gun, and then once we are done curing it with the heat gun, you will flip it over and you'll repeat exactly what I'm doing here on the opposite side, so that we seal the back as well. Okay. And so I put in a little bit of liquid clay in the beginning. I can see that I don't have enough, so I can add some more, but I'd add a small amount in the beginning and then add more as I need as we go, because it just is easier that way. If you end up with too much liquid clay, it's going to be much harder to get rid of that than to add more if you have too little liquid clay. Now you really want to twist this around and make sure that you don't see any gaps. It needs to be a shiny finish the whole way around. If you see any gaps, you need to add liquid clay to that. So I can see there's a little bit there. Spread that around. And also it should have an even hazy look, so you can see that this side over here is quite hazy, but over here it is quite clear, which means that the liquid clay coating is not as thick on this side. Now we don't want it too thick. You should still be able to see the pattern underneath, but it should have a nice even hazy effect. And now I'm just twisting it around and making sure that I got all the sections. Pay special attention to the tops, because that's the part that I generally miss. I'm not sure which part you generally miss, but that's the area where I generally miss a nice even coat of liquid clay, so just make sure that you get those bits. And now I know that I'm showing you the entire thing and I'm not editing this. That's because it's important to do it right, so I want to show you the entire process from start to finish, and then I am going to cut to when I have finished this and finished the back as well. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm not seeing any spots, and you can hear the storm outside. Apologise for that. Okay, now I'm going to bring over the heat gun, put it on your hottest setting and lowest wind speed, and we're going to start. Okay, and here we go. You should come out with something looking clear like this, as you can see. So that is basically it for today's tutorial. I hope that you enjoyed it. You can create just about anything you want with this technique. Of course, I just created a bowl. You can create you could create some coasters. You can create pendants and earrings. Obviously, I've done tutorials on that before. I'll provide a link to that in the description below. And if you would like to support this channel so that I can continue creating videos like this one, please do consider becoming a patron, and I'll leave a link to that in the description below as well. And as always, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.